Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Access to Higher Education at Wiltshire College and University Centre. I'll take you through the structure of our programme and what the opportunities might be for you if you were to be successful on the course and, as the name suggests, of the course indeed, progressing into higher education and getting a university place, whether that be within Wiltshire College and University Centre or going on to a different institution. First of all, just say welcome. As I say, we're going to look at the course, the different pathways that you might want to go down. We have a number of diploma options available to you. We'll have a look at the unit summaries, so you have a full understanding of what you might be studying in each academic area and the support that is available to you as a student of Wiltshire College. So first of all, just to introduce myself, my name is Paul Turner. I'm the Deputy Head of Department for Access to HE, which lies within the Health and Life Sciences Department. You'll see there a series of names of the staff that will be in contact with you the most. We have Sue and Amanda as personal tutors. They are based in the south, with Sue in Salisbury and Amanda in the north in Chippenham. And then a series of lecturers there who obviously have their own specialist areas in which they teach. So Jane is mainly psychology and sociology. Paul is a chemistry and biology lecturer. And John is also a chemistry and biology for the north, and Tony is humanities. Missing from this is Andrew Otto, who also does some part-time physics delivery. So if you're not familiar with how an Access to HE diploma is structured, you will be required to study 4 subjects in total at level 3. Each one of those subjects is worth 15 credit units, and 45 of those credits are graded. In other words, you would receive a grade of pass, merit or distinction for the work that you do within each of those units. The assignments are marked at pass, merit and distinction, and that would go towards those 45 credits that are graded. There are also 15 credits that are ungraded, and that is the study skills. And everybody that studies an Access to HE diploma must do study skills, but they are not graded as pass, merit and distinction. You just have to achieve the minimum standards to be able to achieve those unit credits. So I'll have a look at the options we've got for the academic pathways that you might have as we go through the presentation. So we have 3 pathways at Wiltshire College and University Centre. Firstly, we have the health and social care pathway, the humanities pathway and the science pathway. And the subjects in green on the right can be combined in various ways to make up those diplomas, which we'll go through now. So if you wanted to do the health and social care pathway, which may lead you on to nursing or midwifery at university or social work, for example, you would obviously need to study skills, as we've indicated already, and then you can take biology, sociology and psychology to complete that diploma pathway. Those would be your 3 academic areas plus your study skills. For humanities, you could study psychology, sociology and history, or you could choose to do English literature. So any combination of 3 of those 4 is permitted under the humanities Access to HE diploma pathway. We have this year, because of certain, obviously COVID-19 having an impact, a lot of these subjects are delivered across all the campuses, but we use online delivery. So you may, as we are doing now, plug into a chat from a different campus to a lesson from a different campus, and that can be done at the same time across all the campuses. But you would study for the humanities 3 of those 4 academic areas plus the study skills, of course, as well. Moving on to the science, this has been very popular this year. Lots of people want to do science. I think the situation we find ourselves in has inspired a few people to study science. And we've just added physics to our options. We used to just provide psychology, biology, and chemistry as an option, but now physics is in there as well. In response, actually, to student feedback, there were a lot of students this year that wanted to do physics because it would give them a better grasp of their university course that they wanted to apply to. So we were able to change our structure slightly this year to include physics for those that wanted to study it. Just on that point, when you come to the college, it's a very good idea to have looked at university places or the higher education offer within Wiltshire College and University Centre to see where it is you would like to progress to once you have completed the Access to HE diploma. We will ask you that interview, so it is good to do a bit of research beforehand so you've got a good idea of what it is you'd like to do once you've completed your study programme with us, or which course you'd like to progress to after you've completed the diploma. So looking at those individual units one at a time, and I'll run through these quite quickly, quite briefly, but it will give you a flavour of the kinds of subjects and the kinds of knowledge you will be able to understand by the time you've completed your course. Starting off with sociology, you have the research methods. This is obviously very important for going off to university, because whichever programme of study you would go on to at university, then you would at some point be involved with some research, and this helps with research, particularly obviously in the sociology environment, and there will be a little research project within that for you to complete, but that is obviously very good going forward as well. You look at health and illness and the impact of class, gender, ethnicity, poverty and lifestyle choices on health and illness. We look at crime, obviously looking at any inequalities that there are in crime and how that manifests itself with people undertaking criminal acts and deviant behaviours. And then we'll look at the sociological theories and application to contemporary society. Just looking to my right, if you'd like to include any questions about any of this in the chat box, there is a chat facility at the right hand side of your screen. Moving on to psychology, so again, this would cover the science pathway potentially, and also the health and social care pathway. So this fits into a couple of those pathways, as we've said previously. And you would look at overall approaches to psychology, looking at psychodynamic or social learning theory, for example, and how we develop personality within that. Social psychology obviously looks at the theories that you may have within social psychology, and again, looking at group behaviour, development of groups, and how we respond to other people within a group as well. So a little bit on social psychology there. We look at stress and well-being. Obviously, this is very key at the moment for a lot of people, but we look at understanding the causes of stress and how that might affect the individual, and how we might be able to cope with stress if we do find ourselves suffering some symptoms of that. And psychological perspectives and behaviour. There's lots of behaviour psychology and why we respond to certain situations in certain ways, and how different psychologists would look at that and explain how that might be the case and why you might respond in certain ways. What are the processes going through your mind when you actually are responding to certain situations? A lot of it we do unconsciously. There are theories around why we behave in certain ways in certain circumstances. Sticking with kind of the health and social care pathway, but also moving into the science pathway, depending on which combination of units you decide to take on, we've now got biology. And this will look in quite some depth at the biology. Obviously, bear in mind that an Access to HE course is the equivalent of 3 A levels, but you are doing this within 1 year rather than 2. So it's a very intense programme of study, and you need to be prepared for the amount of work that will be required to get through the qualification in only 1 year. As you can see from this content, there is a lot of complex theories, complex practical understanding that you might need to take on board. A lot of it can be delivered, as I said, remotely, and we have delivered classes remotely this year due to COVID, but there are also practical sessions that are very valuable and enhance the learning process for you to be able to understand some of these theories and put them into practice in a laboratory situation. Got some very nice laboratories in Salisbury that have just been refurbished, so a brand new facility there really, and in Lackham particularly as well, there is a brand new building being built as part of our LEP funding project, that we are having new labs built at Lackham. The existing lab at Trowbridge also has been recently refurbished and has got some good facilities in there and equipment as well. But looking at the content itself, you look at cell biology and DNA and RNA, which obviously are very topical at the moment with the new vaccine for COVID-19. So that's looking at how that might work in particular, and how enzymes function within the body to help our body maintain its homeostasis, which you'll see also is the topic further down. You look at overall physiological processes, so things like the cardiovascular system, the digestive system, how we create energy and the energy systems used to do that. You'll also look at inheritance, which again is part of the DNA element of biology, and looking at how we inherit features from our parents, and looking at the dominant and recessive features that might involve. And then down the bottom, you've got human disease and immunity, and again, very topical with COVID-19 going on, and looking at how we might fight a range of illnesses and diseases that might be caused by viruses or bacteria, and how we might use our immune systems to fight those infections. So, very interesting topic, quite a lot of detail in there. As I say, it's a 1-year course and it's quite intense. Again, moving on to chemistry, and this is now solely in the science pathway. So you will look at, obviously, introduction to the fundamentals of chemistry. This looks at the basics of chemistry, looking at atomic structure, electronic structure, and how the periodic table is arranged, which you may have seen. Looking at atomic numbers, mass numbers, relative mass, and using calculations to look at concentrations and volumes of solutions. The core principles of chemistry takes that a bit further on, and looking at the reactions of those chemicals, looking at different types of reactions, but also how heat is transferred between those different chemical reactions at that time. Looking at things like acids and alkalis and enthalpy, which is the transfer of heat essentially in those reactions. You look at core organic chemistry. So this is looking at mainly fuels and how fuels are burnt. Quite exciting, this unit, because we do burn things quite regularly and have a look at how they react under certain conditions. And you also look at a variety of alcohols and their chemical structures and properties. And some of those will burn and some of them will not burn. Okay, we're also looking at chemical spectroscopy. This unit will demonstrate how the chemical structure of compounds can be detected and analysed using this method. We use trace graphs to help determine the compounds being analysed. Moving on. As I said, we've recently added physics to our curriculum. And because it's just been added, we've only got 12 credits running this year. And we used one of our psychology units as the 15 credits available there. The Principles of Physics unit looks at an overview of many of the areas of physics, including mechanics, forces, electricity, and nuclear physics. You also look at the dynamics, which is obviously to do with motion forces, looking at collisions, sometimes of motor vehicles, and looking at oscillatory forces, so things that come on and come off as a force, and then the effect of gravity on the different masses. And then electricity and magnetism is our final unit, which looks at electric fields and charge storage and how magnetic fields can affect that storage and the conduction of electricity through a circuit. So again, that is the science pathway completed with the physics in there. Moving on to humanities, you have English literature as one of your options. So you look at drama and look at the different ways in which writers use their writing to structure their language, use of form, to shape meanings in their writing. The context in which dramatic texts are written and understood, you'll also look at through a variety of different authors and different genres. You'll also be asked to look at a novel, so analysing a novel, demonstrating the skills needed to analyse a novel, and then interpret different aspects of that novel. You also look at comparing different types of prose. So the use of language and how language can be different and structured differently across different types of writing are also interpreted within this unit. And you'll also study poetry and look at how, again, writers might change their structure and their different language to give different meanings to poetry or the way they write. And then we have history, again, as part of our humanities pathways. This has changed recently. We have put a different unit in there called conflict, looking at new organisations and looking at the Black Lives Matter movement. So there is an element of history in there that's new. We also look at communism. We look at German history. We look at the Cold War and the key issues around the Cold War using a variety of different academic sources and looking at how we view the Cold War from different perspectives. Also look at fascism, identify key issues in the rise of fascism and explain the main characteristics from a historical perspective. And then totalitarian regimes as well. Understand the different concepts applying to the study of totalitarian regimes and how politics has changed over the years and how we look at those different regimes. So finally, looking at the study skills unit. Again, as I said, the first assignment that you would be looking at is, and the first activity you're doing is researching your opportunities in higher education. After all, this is our complete aim. This is what we want to do. And this is the sole focus of the qualification really is to enable students to progress to a higher education course of their choice. So in this unit, you'll obviously look at what those options are. We'll guide you through the UCAS application process and we'll help you with your personal statement and provide you with a reference for your next step. So that actually forms part of what you do as part of study skills, and that becomes an assignment at the end of the day. Academic writing skills will be very important throughout the level 3 course, but obviously as you progress to university, that will become really important as well. You'll learn how to tailor your responses to certain questions and also the type of people that might be reading your writing and maybe being able to use the right terminology and reference things correctly as well. That'll be very important at university and within our course to make sure that references are done properly, correctly, and that goes throughout all your work across the programme. Also look at exam techniques. As part of the Access to HE diploma, under normal circumstances, things are slightly different because of COVID at the minute, but you'll be expected to do an exam as part of your course at some point as well. And so we use the examination techniques unit to help you prepare for that. And obviously that will carry you on into university where there may be final exams as well. And then independent study. So again, at level 3 and certainly going on to university, you'd expect to be learning as an independent student and taking on your own learning as well. And this unit helps you prepare for that. You might look at doing a small scale project and you will use one of the other academic areas to perhaps help you do that small scale project. you might do an experiment in chemistry or biology and do a study, or you might look at personality in psychology and use that as your small scale project. So having looked at those different units, you could be assessed in all of those units in any number of ways. And we, as I said, the qualification comes out with a pass, merit or distinction at the end, and each assessment would be marked as a pass, merit or distinction. And you may be asked to do an essay or a lab report, for example, within chemistry or biology. You might be asked to do a presentation or do some practical demonstrations where there is a practical element to the course. As I mentioned before, we do have to do at least one exam across the programme under normal conditions. We're slightly different this year due to COVID, that we're not required to do that, but I would imagine that going forward, that will be reintroduced as part of the programme. As I said, you would have a tutor on each campus as well. So they would, generally speaking, do the study skills units with you. And part of that process is applying to UCAS, providing you with a personal statement. But they can also be supportive, and they have pastoral responsibilities as well. So looking after your personal welfare, your health, and helping you with any academic issues that you might be experiencing in any of the units. And also helping with administration. So there are loans available for meeting the cost of the fees, the tuition fees, and sometimes students require assistance with that, contacting the student loans company, for example, or other people within the college that can help you with that. Maybe even looking at options for bursaries and things like that as well. So the personal tutor has quite a large role, and they will be your first port of call and your support whilst you're in the college. We also have careers guidance, and as part of the application process, you may wish to have a careers appointment just to make sure that this is the right choice for you. We do have a library. Again, that's slightly unusual at the moment because of the COVID restrictions, but that is there, and you can still borrow books and order them from the library if you'd like to use them. Other activities in preparation for HE, so we do have guest speakers to help you with your personal statement and what they might be looking for as part of that project. And we do have counsellors and wellbeing advisors as well, should they be required. And say it's quite an intense course, and people do feel that they need some support sometimes, which is not just always related to academic study, and that is available within the college should you need it. As I've been saying, it is a very intense course. 3 A levels in 1 year plus the study skills is quite a commitment, and it is very intense and does require time away from the college to be able to complete assignments. Generally speaking, you would have between 12 and 14 hours in class. We do have a sort of part-time option as well, but again, the commitment to that is even more so because you expect to do more away from the classroom to make up for that lack of contact time. I would, advise that you would be doing at least 12 hours away from college as well. So for every hour that you're in college, you should really be doing an hour away from college as well, maybe more. So you need to understand when you're applying and do your research before applying, because there is a time commitment there that you would need to do throughout the academic year. Very enjoyable course, and it is very satisfying when so many students do achieve at the end of the year, but it can be difficult for some within that time period. So what you can do in preparation, really, as I say, is to research the universities on UCAS, have a look at the courses that are available. What is it that interests you at higher education? Where would you like to go and study? Some people would like to study away, obviously from home, but many of our students come and they like to apply for local universities because they have family commitments around Wiltshire. So we have good links with Winchester, Bournemouth, Bristol, Bath. Lots of those universities are very familiar with our Access to HE programs and do welcome students onto their courses at higher education. Try and access some of their open days, again, to give you more information about what it is that they're offering. Again, it's slightly different at the moment with COVID, but there are some very good open days out there at different universities and within Wiltshire College as well, so that you can plan your next step. If you can get some work experience, so many of our students will work in care homes, for example, and they want to take that into their study programme. So health and social care is often people working in care homes, nursing homes, working in the NHS. If you can get some relevant work experience, then that is very, very useful. You may be working in an area that you just want to develop your expertise in. So you might be working in health and fitness, for example, or you might be working in port and biopharma or something like that, which is dealing with medications, etc. So if you are working somewhere that you want to take it further, then the Access to HE course will provide you with that opportunity. And come and speak to us, come and speak to former students, existing students, and see what they are doing and what their plans are for the future as well. So we've just got 3 or 4 minutes for any questions. As I say, there is a chat box down there if you'd like to put some questions in there. I will hang on for a few minutes and see if there are any questions, but thank you very much, and I hope that's been useful for you making a decision and going forward. Thank you.